Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at, well, two really different kinds of stories, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. On one side, you've got this intense drama, almost like an action movie, the book of Jonah. God gives a command, the prophet runs.
Runs hard. And then, completely switching gears, we have the Good Samaritan parable, much more focused, like a sharp ethical lesson answering a really direct question about duty.
It's a fascinating pairing. You have Jonah, who's actively trying to ditch his responsibility to God, like literally sailing away from it. And then you contrast that with the Samaritan, whose actions become the very definition of stepping up to an unexpected human duty.
So our mission today really is to see what happens when we put these side by side. Not just retell them, but, find the common ground. What do they both tell us about responsibility, about action, about mercy?
Exactly. How do they redefine what it means to be truly responsible, both to God and, well, to each other?
It feels like they both push past just status or labels, right?
Right.
It's about what you do.
That's the core insight, I think. True commitment isn't about your title, prophet, priest, Levite, whatever. It's measured by how you respond, especially in a crisis.
Okay, let's dive into Jonah first then. His attempt to dodge duty is just so blatant.
It really is. The command's crystal clear. Go to Nineveh. Preach against its wickedness. Simple enough, right?
You'd think. But Jonah, he immediately heads down to Joppa, finds a ship going to Tarshish, which scholars pretty much agree was like the farthest known point west, the absolute opposite direction.
And he pays the fare. It's not just running away. It's an investment in disobedience. He's putting his money where his rebellion is.
So he gets on the ship, thinks he's maybe pulled it off.
And then bam. The Lord, as the text says, hurls a great wind upon the sea. This isn't just bad weather. It's a furious tempest.
The ship's literally starting to break apart. Experienced sailors are freaking out, tossing cargo.
Crying out to their own gods, trying anything. And where's Jonah in all this?
Down in the hold, fast asleep. It's almost comical if it weren't so serious. Just completely checked out.
It's peak irony, isn't it? The one guy who supposedly knows the God who controls the sea and the land is just napping through the chaos.
The captain has to shake him awake. Hey, call on your God. Maybe he'll notice us.
It's like the pagans have more practical faith at that moment than the prophet does.
So they cast lots, trying to figure out who's responsible for this divine anger. And surprise, surprise,
It lands on Jonah.
he has to fess up. Yeah, I'm a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, the one who made the sea and the dry land.
Oh, I bet that went down well with the sailors currently fighting for their lives on the sea.
Right, they're terrified.
Yeah.
But here's a detail that I think is really important, and you pointed this out earlier. They don't just toss him overboard immediately.
No, they don't. They actually try really hard to row back to shore, even though Jonah's telling them, look, just throw me in, it's my fault.
They resist. There's this ethical hesitation, even facing death. They don't want to be guilty of killing him.
It's incredible compassion, really. They even pray to Jonah's God before they do it, asking not to be held accountable for his death, acknowledging, like, okay, Lord, you've clearly orchestrated this whole thing.
And the second he hits the water.
Instant calm. The sea just stops raging immediately.
Must have been mind-blowing for those sailors.
Absolutely. The text says they were struck with great fear of the Lord. They offer sacrifices, make vows. So, ironically, Jonah's disobedience leads directly to the conversion of these Gentile sailors.
His failure becomes their moment of faith. Wow.
And Jonah's journey isn't over, obviously. The Lord sends a big fish.
The famous whale, although the text just says large fish.
Right. A large fish swallows him. And he's in there for 3 days and 3 nights.
Which leads to his prayer from the depths, from the belly of the fish, right? That's in the responsorial psalm.
Exactly. It's a prayer from rock bottom. He talks about the breakers and billows passing over him, feeling like he's banished. But even there's this flicker of hope looking toward the temple.
It's maybe more desperation than pure devotion at that point.
It feels like it, yeah. But it's enough. He acknowledges God's power, his own helplessness, and the Lord commands the fish.
And it spits him out onto dry land, duty reasserted. You just can't outrun it.
Pretty much. It's an extreme lesson in the inescapability of a divine call.
Okay, so if divine duty is that absolute, that inescapable, it makes you wonder about our duties to each other, doesn't it? Are those just as binding?
That's the perfect pivot to the Good Samaritan. Because if Jonah shows us you can't run away from duty, this parable tackles the question of, well, how far does that duty extend? Who exactly is included?
Right. So we shift to Luke's gospel. A scholar of the law comes up to Jesus, wants to test him.
Yeah, asks of a big question. What do I need to do to inherit eternal life?
And Jesus turns it back on him. Well, what does the law say? How do you read it?
The scholar nails it.
Mm.
Recites the core commands. Love God with everything you've got heart, soul, strength, mind in.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
He just says, spot on. Do that and you will live.
Simple. Right. But not simple enough for the scholar. He wants specifics. He wants loopholes, maybe. The text says he wanted to justify himself.
Meaning, he wanted to draw a clear line. To know exactly who counts as neighbor, so he knows who he doesn't have to worry about. So he asks that crucial question.
And who is my neighbor?
That's the setup for the parable. Jesus tells a story. A man's traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho.
A notoriously dangerous road, even back then. Lots of places for bandits to hide.
And sure enough, he gets ambushed, robbed, stripped, beaten up, and just left for dead on the side of the road, half dead.
Grim picture. Then along comes a priest, sees the guy.
And what does he do? He crosses over to the other side of the road and keeps going.
Ouch. Then a Levite, another person associated with the temple, does the exact same thing. Sees him, avoids him, passes by.
Now, we often just think of this as them being callous, which they were, but there's probably a layer of ritual purity involved too, wasn't there?
Right. If the man was dead, touching a corpse would make them ritually unclean, unable to perform their temple duties. So they might have seen it as choosing religious obligation over, well, human decency.
They prioritized the rule book over the person bleeding in the ditch.
Yeah.
They effectively defined him as not their problem, not their neighbor in that moment.
Exactly. They found their justification.
But then, the twist. A Samaritan comes along.
And for Jesus' audience, this would have been shocking. Samaritans and Jews generally despised each other. Religious disagreements, historical tensions, they were the enemy, the outsider.
The absolute last person anyone listening would expect to be the hero of this story.
But when the Samaritan sees the beaten man, the text says he was moved with compassion. It hit him viscerally.
And that compassion immediately turns into action. Very specific, practical action.
Yeah, it's not just a vague feeling. He goes to the man, crosses the road, unlike the others.
He tends to his wounds. Uses oil and wine, standard medical treatment then. Oil to soothe, wine as an antiseptic. Bandages him up, real hands-on care.
Then he lifts the guy onto his own animal, meaning the Samaritan probably have to walk. He sacrifices his own comfort and transportation.
Takes him to an inn. Doesn't just drop him off, but stays and takes care of him, likely overnight. This is a significant time commitment for a complete stranger from an enemy group.
But wait, there's more. The next day, he has to leave.
And this is the part that I think is just radical. He gives the innkeeper 2 denaries, 2 silver coins. That's like 2 full days' wages for a laborer. Enough money to cover maybe weeks of lodging and care.
A serious chunk of change. But even that's not all.
No. He says to the innkeeper, basically, look after him. Whatever else you spend, I'll cover it when I come back. It's an open-ended promise, a blank check for the stranger's recovery.
That is extraordinary. He's not just offering first aid, he's ensuring the man's complete rehabilitation, taking full responsibility until the man is back on his feet.
It completely redefines neighbor away from proximity or tribe or religion and towards active, costly, sustained mercy.
So Jesus finishes the story and turns back to the lawyer. He doesn't directly answer, "Who is my neighbor?" anymore. Instead, he asks,
which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He flips the question. It's not about defining who deserves help. It's about defining who gives it.
And the lawyer has to admit it, though notice he can't quite bring himself to say the Samaritan. He just says,
one who showed him mercy.
Yeah. And Jesus' final command is just devastatingly simple and direct.
Go and do likewise.
Wow. Okay. So pulling these 2 narratives together now. Jonah running from God's call, the priest and Levite running from human need, and then the sailors and the Samaritan running towards the responsibility.
It really hammers home that your status, your religious title, your ethnic identity, none of that matters as much as your actions in the moment of need. Jonah the prophet failed initially. The priest and Levite failed completely.
While the supposed outsiders, the Gentile sailors, the hated Samaritan, they're the ones who actually respond with reverence or mercy.
Yeah, the synthesis seems to be that true faith, true righteousness, isn't about following the rules perfectly in isolation or about having the right credentials. It's about radical responsiveness. It's about letting compassion override social barriers, ritual concerns, even personal cost.
Jonah eventually submitted, and that led to salvation for the sailors and himself. The Samaritan acted out of compassion, and that fulfilled the spirit of the law, love in action.
It connects back to that line from Psalm 106 we saw mentioned. Blessed are those who act justly, who always do what is right.
That seems like the core principle, doesn't it? Acting justly isn't just about legal definitions. For the Samaritan, it was oil, wine, bandages, time, money. Practical righteousness.
It was choosing the messy, inconvenient, costly right thing over the clean, convenient, rule-following avoidance.
It's so easy to define neighbor narrowly, isn't it? People like us, people nearby, people who won't cost us too much.
But the Samaritan blows that wide open. Neighborliness becomes this radical willingness to cross any barrier, social, religious, financial, to meet a fundamental human need.
And there's risk involved too, right? The sailors risked God's wrath by potentially killing Jonah. The Samaritan risked being robbed himself on that dangerous road, risked ritual impurity, risked his time and money.
That's a huge point. Duty in both stories seems measured by the risk and the cost you're willing to bear. Are you willing to potentially sacrifice something significant for the sake of obedience or mercy?
So this deep dive, looking at both flight and action, it tells us that whether you're tempted to run away like Jonah or tempted to define your responsibilities narrowly like the scholar,
the ultimate test is your response, your action, your willingness to show mercy, especially when it's hard, especially to those who are vulnerable or considered other.
The command remains incredibly simple and incredibly hard.
Go and do the work. Be the neighbor.
It definitely pushes us all to look beyond our own comfort zones, our own labels, and see who's actually on the side of the road in our own lives.
Which leads us right to the challenge these sources pose for everyone listening today, doesn't it?
Yeah, the real takeaway question. Who is it right now in your life who needs your time, maybe your help, maybe just your understanding? And how can you be a true neighbor to them? What barrier might you need to cross?
Go and do likewise.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into flight, fury, and what it means to be radically neighborly. We'll see you next time.